The battered freighter Endurance drifted through the dark edge of known space like a wounded animal. Its engines coughed weak blue pulses, barely enough to keep it moving. Inside the cockpit, Elias Kane wiped sweat from his forehead. He was 34, tall, with short dark hair and the kind of tired eyes that came from too many long hauls alone. Once he flew fighters for the United Earth Navy. Now he salvaged wrecks for a living. It paid better, and nobody shot at him most days. Today was not most days. The proximity alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across the console. Elias leaned forward. 3 large shapes appeared on the scanner, sharp, angular ships with the telltale purple energy signatures of the Zalvoran Empire. They were closing fast. "Damn it," he muttered. He punched the throttle. The Endurance groaned as the old drives tried to respond. The Imperial ships were already spreading out, cutting off escape vectors. Elias knew the playbook. They would disable engines first, then board. Standard procedure for anything human that wandered too close to their border. He opened a channel. "This is civilian salvage vessel Endurance. We are not military. We are on a legal recovery mission. Please stand down." Static answered. Then a cold, mechanical voice replied in near-perfect English. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Power down engines and prepare for boarding. Resistance will be met with lethal force." Elias clenched his jaw. He had no weapons worth mentioning, just a single-point defense turret that might scratch paint. Running was impossible. The Imperial cruisers were faster. Fighting was suicide. He killed the main thrust and raised his hands, even though no one could see. "Engines off. I'm not resisting." Minutes later, magnetic clamps locked onto the hull with heavy thuds. Airlock seals hissed. Boots clanged through the corridors. Elias stood in the main corridor, arms still raised. He wore a patched engineering suit, the kind with too many pockets and not enough armor. The inner airlock door slid open. 4 Zalvoran soldiers stepped through. They were tall, over 7 feet, with smooth gray skin, slit-pupil eyes, and bony crests along their skulls. Black combat armor covered them from neck to toe. Pulse rifles stayed leveled at his chest. Behind them came another figure. This one was different. The armor was not plain black. It carried swirling patterns of deep crimson and gold. A long cloak hung from the shoulders, edged in silver thread. The helmet had a tall crest shaped like a blade. The soldiers stepped aside without a word. The armored figure stopped 3 paces from Elias. A gloved hand rose and pressed a release on the helmet. Seals hissed. The helmet came off. Elias blinked. She was younger than he expected. Maybe 25 in human years, though Zalvoran aged slower. Her skin was the same gray but smoother, almost luminous under the corridor lights. Long white hair fell in tight braids down her back. Her eyes were pale violet, sharp and unreadable. A thin silver circlet rested on her brow. Empress Vera Thaler. Even on the fringe colonies, people whispered her name. She had taken the throne 6 months earlier after a war that left the imperial palace soaked in blood. Every rival claimant, brothers, cousins, aunts dead. Some said she killed them herself. Others said she simply watched while her guards did it. Either way, the empire obeyed her now. Fear kept it together. She studied Elias like he was a broken machine part. "You are the only life sign," she said. Her voice was low, calm, almost musical. "Where is your crew?" "Escape pods," Elias answered. "They ejected when your ships appeared. Standard procedure." She tilted her head. "You stayed." "Someone had to shut down the antimatter feed, so the ship didn't blow when you clamped on." A faint sound came from her, almost a laugh but too short to be sure. One of the soldiers shifted. "Empress, protocol requires." "Silence," she said without looking at him. She stepped closer. Elias smelled metal and faint ozone from her armor. Her eyes moved over his face, his suit, the tool belt hanging at his hip. "You will come with us," she said. Elias kept his voice steady. "And my ship will be scrapped. Your pods will be recovered. If they behave, the occupants will live." He nodded once. No point arguing, not yet. The soldiers moved to grab his arms. Vera raised a hand. They stopped. "Walk," she ordered. Elias followed her through the airlock, down the umbilical tube, and into the belly of the Imperial flagship. The corridors here were wide, lit by soft purple strips along the walls. The air smelled clean, almost sweet. Everything looked too perfect, curved metal, glowing panels, no scratches or wear. They reached a large circular chamber. Guards stood at every door. In the center sat a raised platform with a single chair carved from dark crystal. Vera sat. She gestured. A smaller chair was brought for Elias. He sat. The guard stayed close. She leaned forward. "Tell me your name." "Elias Kane." "Human." "Yes." "You salvaged in restricted space." "It was listed as neutral on our charts. Old data, maybe." She watched him for a long moment. "You did not fire. You did not run until the last second. You did not beg." Elias shrugged. "Would begging help?" "No." "Then why waste breath?" Again that almost laugh. She stood. The cloak moved like liquid behind her. "Take him to the holding suite," she told the guards. "No restraints, food and water, medical check." The soldiers looked surprised but obeyed. As Elias was led away, he glanced back. Vera had not moved. She watched him go, violet eyes fixed, expression impossible to read. The holding suite was not a cell. It looked more like a guest room on a luxury liner. Soft bed, clean bathroom, even a small viewport showing stars sliding past. A tray of strange food waited, steamed vegetables, pale meat, something like bread. Elias ate carefully. It tasted better than it looked. Hours passed. He slept a little. When he woke, the door opened. Vera entered alone. No guards, no armor. She wore a simple black robe tied at the waist. Her white braids hung loose now. She looked smaller without the helmet and cloak, but no less dangerous. She closed the door, stood near the viewport. "You saved one of my soldiers," she said. Elias sat up. During the boarding, a bulkhead was coming down. He was pinned. I used foam sealant and a quick weld to brace it. "Why?" "He was going to die." "He is Zalvoran. You are human. Enemies." Elias rubbed his face. "Didn't feel like the time for politics. A person was dying. I acted." She turned from the window. Her eyes met his. "You will serve me," she said. Elias waited. "You are skilled with machines. My engineers are artists. They build beautiful things that break under pressure. You build ugly things that last. I need that." "And if I say no?" "Your world has 7 billion souls. I can order glassing strikes on 3 major cities by morning. You choose." Elias felt cold slide down his spine. He believed her. "What do you want from me exactly?" "Technical retainer. You fix what breaks. You improve what is weak. You stay on this ship. You do not leave until I allow it." He looked at the floor, then back at her. "My crew." "Already recovered. They are alive. They will be returned to human space with a message. Do not cross our border again." Elias exhaled slowly. "Then I accept, but only if you swear they go free. No tricks." She studied him again. Something flickered in her eyes, curiosity maybe. "I swear it." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the faint silver lines etched into her skin, old scars, maybe ceremonial. "You will begin tomorrow," she said. "The shield grid on Deck 7 is failing. My engineers cannot find the fault. You will." Elias nodded. She turned to leave. At the door she paused. "One more thing," she said. He waited. "You interest me, Elias Kane." The door closed behind her. Elias sat in the quiet room. Stars moved outside the viewport. He felt the faint vibration of the huge ship around him. He was a prisoner now, a useful one. But the Empress had looked at him like he was a puzzle she wanted to solve. And that, Elias thought, might be more dangerous than any rifle. The huge Imperial flagship Ecliptic Crown moved through space like a silent predator. Weeks turned into months. Elias Kane woke each day in the same gilded room that had once felt like a prison. Now it felt almost normal. The bed was too soft. The food arrived hot and strange but tasty. Guards no longer stood outside his door every hour. They waited at the end of the corridor instead. Every morning, a young Zalvoran officer named Kale brought him a tablet with the day's tasks. Kale was the soldier Elias had saved during the boarding. His left arm still carried a faint scar from the foam sealant Elias had used. Kale never spoke much, but he nodded with respect each time he handed over the tablet. The first job was always the same type, something beautiful that had stopped working. The Zalvoran built their machines like sculptures. Smooth crystal cores pulsed with light. Thin silver wires carried power in perfect loops. Everything looked elegant. But when stress hit, combat damage, power surges, long travel, the crystals cracked. The wires burned. Systems failed fast. Elias fixed them the human way. He used heavy tape from his old tool kit to hold cracked panels. He spliced spare wires with twists and solder instead of crystal fusion. He added backup relays made from salvaged freighter parts. Ugly, clumsy-looking, but they held. On Deck 7, the main shield grid had flickered for days. Imperial engineers ran diagnostics for hours and found nothing. Elias spent one afternoon crawling through access tunnels. He found the fault in 10 minutes. A hairline fracture in the primary crystal feed, hidden behind a decorative panel no one thought to remove. He patched it with a strip of flexible metal from an old coolant line, then wrapped it in insulating foam. The grid snapped back to full strength. The engineers stared. One whispered something in their language that sounded like disbelief. Vera heard about it within the hour. She summoned him to the observation deck that evening. The deck had a wide dome of transparent material. Stars burned bright outside. She stood alone at the center, arms folded, black robe loose around her shoulders. No guards this time. "You fixed the grid," she said. Elias shrugged. "It was just a small crack. Your people build for beauty. Sometimes beauty hides the weak spots." She turned to face him. Her violet eyes caught the starlight. "You insult my engineers." "I state facts. If you want pretty machines that break in battle, keep doing it your way. If you want them to last, listen to ugly fixes." A long silence followed. Then she spoke softly. "Show me." He followed her to a side chamber. A holographic display lit up. It showed the flagship's antimatter containment ring. The outer coils glowed faint red, warning signs. "My senior technician says it will hold for another cycle," she said. "I do not believe him." Elias studied the hollow. The coils looked perfect on the surface, but he saw micro-vibrations in the readings, tiny shakes building up. "It won't hold," he agreed. "Give me 6 hours and some spare conduit." She nodded once. He worked through the night in the engineering bay. Guards watched from the doorway. Engineers hovered nearby, arms crossed, saying nothing. Elias stripped part of the outer coil housing. He found stress fractures too small for their scanners to catch. He replaced the damaged section with a length of heavy-duty human conduit, thicker, less elegant, but rated for twice the pressure. He bolted it in place with simple clamps, then ran a secondary monitor line so any future shake would trigger an alarm early. When he finished, the red warnings turned green. The engineers tested it. The system purred smoothly. One of them bowed slightly toward Elias. Another looked angry but said nothing. Vera came at dawn. She walked the length of the bay, inspected the work, touched the new conduit with one finger. "You used human parts," she said. "Best I had." "You improved efficiency by 14%. The drive core runs cooler now." Elias wiped grease from his hands. "Small changes add up." She studied him again, that same look, curious, searching. "Walk with me," she said. They left the bay and moved through quiet corridors. Most of the crew slept. Only soft lights glowed along the walls. She led him to a small garden chamber. Real plants grew under artificial suns, tall purple ferns, glowing blue flowers. Water trickled in a stone basin. The air smelled fresh. She sat on a low bench. Elias hesitated, then sat beside her, not too close. "You speak to me like an equal," she said. "You're the Empress, I'm just a mechanic. Yet you argue, you question, no one else does. Maybe they should." She looked at the plants. "I killed my family to take this throne, every rival, every threat. I had to. The empire would have torn itself apart otherwise." Elias stayed quiet. "I have no friends," she continued. "No family. Only fear keeps my court loyal, fear of me." "That sounds lonely." She turned her head sharply. "Emperors do not feel lonely." "Everyone feels lonely sometimes." Another silence. The water kept trickling. "Why do humans fight so hard?" she asked suddenly. "Your worlds are small, your ships are weak, yet you never surrender." Elias thought for a moment. "Because giving up feels worse than dying trying. We tell stories about people who stood against impossible odds. We admire them. We want to be like them." She frowned. "Stories?" "Yeah, stories keep us going." She looked away. "I have no stories, only orders, only victories." "You could make new ones." She did not answer. After that night, the summons changed. Sometimes she called him for repairs. Sometimes she called him just to talk. Late at night, after long shifts, she would send for him. They sat in the garden or on the observation deck. She asked questions about earth music, about human families, about laughter, about grief. Elias answered honestly. Sometimes he made her angry, sometimes he made her think. One night he told her about his mother, how she died when he was young, how he joined the Navy to make something of himself, how he left the service because he got tired of following orders that made no sense. Vera listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said, "You grieve still. Some things don't go away." She reached out. Her fingers brushed his hand just for a second, then she pulled back. "I do not understand grief," she said. "I have never allowed it." "Maybe you should try." She looked at him. Something soft flickered in her eyes, something new. The next day, an assassin tried. A servant brought Elias a cup of spiced tea during a repair job. He smelled something wrong, bitter, chemical. He poured it out. The liquid ate through the deck plate. Guards found the servant dead in a storage room, poisoned by his own hand. Vera executed 3 nobles the next morning, publicly, in the throne room. She used a thin blade, no words, just quick cuts. Elias watched from the side. She did not look at him once. That night she came to his room. She wore no robe, just a simple tunic. Her white hair hung loose. "They wanted you dead," she said. "I noticed. They fear you. They fear change." She stepped closer. "I will not let them take you." Elias met her eyes. "I'm not going anywhere, you made that clear." She stood very still. Then she spoke so quietly, he almost missed it. "I do not want you to go." Elias felt something shift inside him. Not fear, not anger, something warmer. He reached out slowly, took her hand. She did not pull away. They stood like that for a long time. No words, just the hum of the ship around them. Outside the viewport, stars kept moving. Inside the room, something new had begun. The alarms wailed through the ecliptic crown like angry ghosts. Red lights pulsed along every corridor. Elias Kane ran toward the engineering deck, tool belt slapping against his hip. He had been in the middle of a late-night adjustment to the secondary drive when the first explosion rocked the ship. He knew what it meant: ambush. The rebels had waited months for this moment. Noble houses that hated Vera's new softness saw their chance. They struck with a fleet twice the size of the Imperial Guard. Boarding pods slammed into the hull like knives. Soldiers poured in. Elias reached the main corridor on Deck 5. Smoke filled the air. Bodies lay on the floor, Imperial guards and rebel fighters mixed together. Pulse fire cracked from both ends. He ducked behind a bulkhead and waited. Then he saw her. Vera Thaler moved through the chaos like a storm. She wore full combat armor again, crimson and black, blade in one hand, pistol in the other. Her white braids whipped as she fought. She cut down 2 rebels with clean strokes. Her guards tried to stay close, but she pushed forward alone. Elias spotted the danger before anyone else. A rebel sniper perched on a catwalk above. The sniper raised a long rifle. The barrel pointed straight at Vera's back. Elias did not think. He shouted her name and sprinted. Vera turned at the sound of his voice. The shot came. She moved faster than Elias expected. She twisted, raised her arm, and took the blast meant for her head. The energy round punched through her shoulder armor. She staggered but did not fall. Blood dark purple spread across the black plates. The sniper aimed again. Elias reached her first. He grabbed her waist and pulled her behind a support pillar. Pulse fire chewed the metal where they had stood. "Stay down," he said. She hissed in pain but pushed him off. "I do not hide." "You're bleeding." "I have had worse." More rebels advanced. Elias looked around. The corridor was a kill zone. Their only way out was a side passage to the escape pods. He dragged her toward it. She resisted at first, then let him pull her. Her left arm hung useless. She fired one-handed with the other. They reached the escape pod bay. Elias slammed the door controls. It sealed with a heavy thud. He punched in an override code he had learned weeks ago, something he was never supposed to know. The pod hatch opened. "Inside," he said. Vera glared at him. "This is my ship." "And it's losing. Get in." She stepped inside. Elias followed. He sealed the hatch and hit launch. The pod shot free with a jolt that pressed them against the walls. Through the small viewport, Elias watched the ecliptic crown burn. Rebel ships swarmed it like insects. Imperial fighters tried to defend, but they were outnumbered. The pod tumbled away into the dark. Elias worked the controls. He set a course for the nearest human outpost, a small mining colony on a moon called Harrow's Reach. It sat just outside Imperial space. He had friends there from old salvage runs. Vera sat against the wall, breathing hard. Her armor smoked where the shot had hit. Elias knelt beside her. "Let me see." She did not argue this time. He opened the damaged shoulder plate. The wound looked bad, burned flesh, purple blood. He pulled a medkit from the pod's supplies. Human medkit, basic but effective. He cleaned the wound with antiseptic. She did not flinch. He packed it with clotting gel and wrapped it tight. "You'll live," he said, "but you need real help soon." She looked at him. Her violet eyes seemed brighter with pain. "Why did you pull me?" she asked. "Because you would have died. I am the Empress. My death would end the war. Your death would let worse people win." She closed her eyes for a moment. "You could have run. The pod had room for one." "I know. You stayed." "Yeah." Silence filled the small pod. Only the hum of the life support broke it. Hours passed. The pod drifted. Elias kept watch on the scanner. No pursuit yet. Maybe the rebels thought the Empress died in the flagship. Vera spoke again. "Tell me about your world." Elias leaned back against the opposite wall. "Earth, it's messy, crowded, beautiful in places. People fight over stupid things, but we keep building, keep trying." "Tell me a story." He thought for a second. There was a man once. He lived on an island during a big war. The enemy came with ships and planes. Everyone said surrender. He said no. He took a small boat and rescued soldiers from the beach, over and over, Hundreds of them. He didn't have to, he just did. Vera listened. He wasn't a soldier, Elias continued, just a person who refused to give up on others. She opened her eyes, like you. Maybe. The pod hit atmosphere. Alarms beeped. Elias took the controls again. Harrow's reach grew in the viewport, a gray moon with domes and mining rigs. He landed rough in a cargo bay. Humans in orange suits rushed out. They opened the hatch with weapons ready. Elias raised his hands. It's me, Elias Kane. I've got an injured passenger. She needs help fast. The medics pushed past him. They saw Vera and froze for a second. Then they moved. They lifted her onto a stretcher. She did not resist. One medic looked at Elias. You brought the Zalvor and Empress here. Yeah, save her first. Questions later. They took her to the medical dome. Elias followed. He waited outside the operating room while doctors worked. Human doctors. Their tools were crude compared to Imperial tech. No fancy crystals, just steel and lasers and good old stitches. Hours later, a doctor came out. She'll live. The wound was deep, but we stopped the bleeding. She's strong, tougher than most humans. Elias nodded. Can I see her? The doctor stepped aside. Vera lay on a bed inside a clear room. Monitors beeped softly. Her armor was gone. She wore a simple medical gown. Her white hair spread across the pillow. She looked smaller, almost fragile. She opened her eyes when he entered. You stayed, she said. Someone had to make sure you didn't die. Why? Elias pulled a chair close. Because if I left, you'd come after me. And because I don't want to see what happens to your empire without you. She stared at him. You could escape now, she said. This is human space. They would protect you. I know. But you sit here. Yeah. She reached out with her good hand. Elias took it. Her fingers were cool. I do not understand this, she whispered. Me neither. She pulled him closer. Her breath touched his face. Then she kissed him. It was not gentle, it was fierce, desperate, like something held back too long finally breaking free. Elias kissed her back. His hand found her cheek. Her skin felt smooth under his fingers. When they parted, she looked at him with wide eyes. I want you, she said, not as prisoner, not as servant, as mine. Elias gave a small, tired laugh. That's a promotion I didn't ask for. Do you accept? He looked into her violet eyes, saw the fear there, the hope, the loneliness that had ruled her for so long. Yeah, he said, I accept. She smiled, small, real, the first true smile he had ever seen on her face. Outside the medical dome, the twin moons of Harrow's Reach rose slow and quiet. The colony lights glowed soft against the dark. Inside the room, two people from different worlds held hands, one human, one Empress. The war was not over. The Empire still bled, rebels still hunted. But something had changed. And neither of them would let go. The medical dome on Harrow's Reach stayed quiet after the surgery. Vera rested for 3 days. Elias never left her side for long. He brought her water, adjusted pillows, told her old Earth jokes that made her frown in confusion, then smile just a little. The human medics watched them with raised eyebrows but said nothing. On the 4th day, Vera stood. She moved slowly, shoulder still bandaged, but her eyes burned with purpose. I must return, she said. Elias nodded. He had known this moment would come. A small shuttle waited in the colony's hangar. It belonged to a freelance trader who owed Elias a favor. No imperial markings, just plain gray hull and enough speed to slip through patrols. The pilot was human, nervous but loyal. They lifted off at dusk. The moon shrank behind them. Stars filled the viewport again. Vera sat in the co-pilot seat. She wore borrowed human clothes, dark jacket, loose pants, her white hair tied back. No armor, no crown. She looked almost ordinary. Elias flew. He kept the ship low and quiet, hugging asteroid fields to avoid sensors. They reached Imperial space in 2 days. Rebel ships patrolled the outer lanes. Vera sent a coded signal from the comm unit. A loyalist frigate appeared on scanners soon after. It matched course and opened a hangar bay. They docked. The frigate's captain met them at the airlock. He dropped to one knee when he saw Vera. "Empress, we thought you dead." "I am not," she said simply. "Take me to the throne world." The journey took another week. During that time, Vera changed. She spoke to Elias in private. She asked his advice on battle plans. He gave it straight, no bowing, no fancy words. "Hit their supply lines first," he told her one night in her quarters. "Starve the fleets, make them come to you. Humans call it guerrilla fighting." She listened. She wrote notes on a tablet. She even laughed once when he drew a bad sketch of a rebel ship choking on cut fuel lines. When they reached the capital planet, Vera stepped onto the palace landing pad like she had never left. Loyal guards surrounded her. Cheers rose from the walls. But Elias saw the tension. Many eyes looked at him with hate. She walked straight to the throne room. Elias followed 2 steps behind. The great hall was packed. Nobles in bright robes stood on both sides. Some bowed low, others stood stiff, faces hard. Vera climbed the steps to the crystal throne. She sat. Elias stayed at the base of the dais. "I have returned," she said, her voice carried clear and strong. "The rebellion ends today." Murmurs spread. A tall noble stepped forward. Lord Corrin, one of the old houses. He wore gold chains and a sneer. "You bring a human to this hall," he said. "A pet, a weakness." Vera's eyes narrowed. "He is my consort." Gasps filled the room. Corrin laughed. "Consort, a savage mechanic. The Empire bows to no alien." Vera stood. "The Empire bows to strength. He saved my life. He turned the tide when you fled. Question him again and you question me." Corrin's face darkened. "Many houses will not accept this." "Then they will fall," she said. The Civil War exploded after that. Rebel fleets struck hard. They hit outer colonies, cut trade routes, bombed loyal cities. Vera fought back with cold precision. But now she had Elias at her side in the war room. He pointed at holomaps. "See here, they overextend. Pull back your main force. Let them think they win. Then hit their rear with fast raiders." She did it. The raiders, small, quick ships, destroyed 3 rebel supply convoys in one night. He suggested traps, fake distress calls, mined asteroid fields, simple human tricks the Empire had never used. Each victory made the nobles angrier. They whispered that the Empress had changed, that the human poisoned her mind. Vera grew fiercer in battle. She led charges herself. Her armor shone red with rebel blood, but at night in private she clung to Elias. One evening after a hard win, she sat on the edge of her bed. Elias stood by the window, watching fires burn on the horizon. "You are winning," he said. "We are winning," she corrected. He turned, "But you look tired." She looked down at her hands. "I fear losing you more than losing the throne." He crossed the room, sat beside her, took her hand. "I'm here." She leaned against him. "They will try to take you, to hurt me." "Let them try." Days later, a moderate noble house sent an envoy. They wanted peace talks. They offered terms. Vera agreed to meet on neutral ground, a derelict station in the outer belt. Elias went with her. The station was cold and empty. Lights flickered. The envoy waited in a large chamber. 3 nobles, armed guards, but they lowered weapons when Vera entered. They talked for hours. The nobles offered surrender if Vera shared power, a council, less absolute rule. Vera listened. Elias stood silent behind her. Then one noble looked at him. "And the human, he must leave, return to his kind, he has no place here." Vera's face went still. Elias spoke before she could. "I go where she goes." The noble smiled thin. Then you doom her. Vera stood. This meeting ends. They left. Back on the flagship, Vera paced her quarters. Elias watched. You could have taken the deal, he said. No. Why not? Because they want you gone, and I will not allow it. He stepped in front of her. Love isn't a cage, Vera. She stopped, looked at him. I keep you close because I fear, she said. Fear of the dark without you. I know, but if you chain me, I stop being the man you fell for. Her eyes filled with something close to tears. Zalvorin did not cry easily. She turned away. I restricted your movements, doubled guards, forbade outside calls. Yeah, I noticed. I was wrong. Elias waited. She faced him again. I do not know how to love without control. Then learn. A human diplomatic ship arrived the next day, under white flag. They sent a message, asylum for Elias Kane, safe passage home, no tricks. Vera read it in the throne room. Nobles watched, guards waited. She looked at Elias. He stood calm. She spoke to the court. The human envoy offers him freedom. Murmurs rose. She turned to Elias. Do you wish to go? He met her eyes. Only if you come with me. She blinked. He stepped forward, in front of everyone. I stayed because I chose to, he said loud enough for all to hear. If you make that choice impossible, I will leave, and you will lose the one person who loves you without fear. Silence fell like stone. Vera looked at him for a long time. Then she spoke soft only for him. I cannot lose you. Then don't. She turned to the nobles. The human stays as my equal, as my heart. Some bowed, some glared. The war continued, but something had shifted. Vera fought smarter now, less rage, more thought. Elias stood beside her in every council. His voice mattered. And in quiet moments she held him close, not as prisoner, not as pet. As partner. The throne room felt less cold. The empire bled, but it began to heal. The final battle came like a storm over the imperial capital. The sky above the palace turned black with ships. Rebel fleets pressed in from every direction. Loyalist forces formed a thin ring around the planet. Laser fire lit the night like falling stars. Explosions bloomed silent in the vacuum. Inside the war room of the rebuilt ecliptic crown, Elias Kane stood beside Vera. Hollow screens showed red and blue dots moving fast. Losses climbed on both sides. The empire bled from 1,000 cuts. Vera wore her black armor again. The crimson patterns looked darker now, stained from old battles. Her white hair was tied tight. She stared at the main display without blinking. Elias spoke low. We're winning, but at what cost? She did not answer right away. A rebel cruiser broke through the line. It fired a heavy volley. The ship shook. Alarms screamed. Crews shouted reports. Vera turned to him. Her violet eyes looked tired. If we crush them all, nothing will remain. If we let them live, they will rise again. Elias nodded. Then give them a choice, not death, change. She looked back at the screen. You think they will listen? Some will, enough to matter. She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, something had decided inside her. She walked to the command throne, sat, raised her voice. Open a channel to all fleets, loyal and rebel, broadcast wide. The calm officer obeyed. The room went quiet. Vera spoke clear and calm. This is Empress Vera Thaler. The war ends tonight, not with fire, with words. I offer terms. Rebel houses will keep their lands and titles, but the throne changes. No more one voice. A council will rule, mixed blood, mixed worlds, human voices included. Zalvorin, allies, all who wish peace. Murmurs spread across the bridge. Even the loyal captains looked shocked. She continued. I step down as absolute ruler. I keep the name Empress only for ceremony. The empire will not die, it will grow. Different, stronger, or it will burn. Choose now." Silence followed. Then voices exploded on open channels. Some cheered, some cursed, some demanded proof. Vera cut the feed. She looked at Elias. "Is this enough?" He stepped close. "It's a start." The battle slowed. Rebel ships held position. No more attacks came. Hours passed. Negotiators shuttled back and forth. Terms were argued. Changes were made. In the end, most houses accepted. A few fled to the outer dark. They would be hunted later. Dawn broke over the capital. Smoke still rose from ruined towers, but the shooting stopped. Vera called the court to the great hall one last time. The crystal throne stood empty. Nobles filled the room. Some looked afraid. Some looked hopeful. She stood at the top of the dais. Elias stood beside her, no guards between them. "I abdicate absolute power," she said. "A council takes my place. 12 seats, 4 Zalvoran nobles, 4 from allied worlds, 4 from human colonies. They will speak for the Empire now." Gasps filled the hall. She raised a hand. "I keep the title Empress, but only as symbol. I will advise when asked. I will fight when needed, but I will not rule alone again." She looked at Elias. "And he stays with me, as my equal, my choice, my heart." No one dared speak against it, not today. After the ceremony, they walked alone through the palace gardens. The plants glowed soft under artificial suns. Water ran in quiet streams. The air smelled clean. Vera stopped by a stone bench. She sat. Elias sat beside her. "You gave up everything," he said. "No, I gave up fear. I kept what matters." He took her hand. Her fingers felt warm now, less cold than before. A small shuttle waited in the hangar the next day. Plain, human-built, no guards, no escort, just them. They boarded. Elias flew. Vera sat in the co-pilot seat. She watched the planet shrink behind them. "Where to?" he asked. "A quiet place. A human colony, small, green, far from thrones." He smiled. "I know one." The journey took days. They talked the whole way, about nothing important, about everything. She asked about Earth food. He promised to cook for her. She laughed at the idea of an empress eating burned noodles. They landed on a green world called New Haven. Rolling hills, blue lakes, small towns with wooden houses. People waved when they saw the shuttle. No one knew who they were. No one cared. They bought a house on a hill, simple, 2 rooms, a porch that looked over a valley. Elias fixed the roof. Vera planted flowers she had never seen before, purple ones that matched her eyes. Nights were quiet. They sat on the porch, watched twin suns set. Stars came out slow. One evening Vera leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "You still cannot leave," she said soft. Elias put his arm around her. "I don't want to." She smiled real easy. They stayed like that until the sky turned black. Months passed. News from the Empire came sometimes. The council worked. Slow, messy, but it worked. No more blood wars. Trade grew. Humans visited the capital. Zalvoran walked Earth streets. Vera read reports. She advised when they asked, but she never went back to stay. She was free. One night Elias cooked dinner, simple stew, bread. She ate like she had never tasted food before. After they walked outside, the air was cool, stars bright. She stopped, looked up. "I was wrong," she said. "About what?" "About everything. I thought power kept me safe. It kept me alone." He took her hand. "Now I have this," she said, "and it is enough." Elias pulled her close, kissed her slow. They stood under the stars, 2 people from different worlds, one stubborn human, one changed empress. The empire had not been conquered with guns or ships. It had been changed by a man who refused to leave, who chose love over fear, who showed an empress how to feel. And in the quiet of that small world, far from thrones and wars, they built something stronger than any crown. A life. Together,